Next, we have a story from Akeem, yes?
Yes, I appreciate being on this panel, and I look forward to what comes out of this. As I said before, it's transforming this conversation into what we do next. I think before I get into the story real quick, I just wanted to say that there's a aspect of this that I think we need to start understanding that our future is future. If we can't do it in our lifetime where we make change, which I don't think, one, that we should be waiting 20, 30 years to make change that can be done right now. One, being civically engaged and understanding the laws in which you want to not either get arrested from or to protect yourself from starts with you legislating and being a part of the legislative body. Meaning, you have influence in your community, and I don't think we're teaching our public, whether it be our youth or the adults, I don't think we're teaching them to be understanding of how we can have power back with us. Our communities are used to being told what to do instead of being the leaders that we know we are. You can feel as a leader in your own right just by being educated. And I don't mean educated in the sense that we go to school every day and learn English, social studies, science, math, and gym, or the stuff that's not getting us to be in leadership roles. And then yet we're telling these stories through perspectives or lens of someone else. Like sometimes we tell stories like I'm about to, where a person in solitary confinement, well, a professional, let alone not even in our community professional, but a professional is gonna take the credit for being a psychologist or a sociologist or even a therapist for a person. Yeah, you're studying the person who's the actual professional. So Khalif, my brother, being in solitary confinement, suffered immense discrimination for being a youth. First of all, teenagers are not looked at as anyone of substance in the criminal injustice system, but then two, in society. Yet we make this common thought that it's about the youth. Well, if it's about the youth, how come we don't teach law to our children? They don't know that getting in a fight would land them in jail. I mean, it's a kind of concept because we as blacks, we kind of know the law. I mean, we're joked on to know, we know the sentencing structure and we know the repercussions of doing stuff, but does our youth know this? And so it's a targeting. It's targeting the thought that the powers that be makes money off our incarcerated bodies. And so by putting them in jail for laws that we didn't tell them, listen, you joyride in a bread truck like Khalif, the reason why he didn't get bailed out after we got the money for the bail is because he had went joyriding in a bread truck that led him to having a probationary hold. And for that thought that someone can be held in jail for a crime, I mean, you're alleged of a crime. But while you're alleged, that means you're innocent until proven guilty. There's a difference between being in prison and there's a difference between being in jail as a detainee. You're not an inmate, you're a detainee, but we have told the world through watching the news at 9 o'clock and then Cops or Bad Boy, or that show Bad Boys, looking at our black bodies going across the screen as entertainment, and then all of a sudden now we convict our own people or we judge our own people in our own neighborhoods. And yet instead of thinking that this man or woman didn't do something, because the news plays a factor in this. I mean, you saw what happened with Bill Cosby, and yet when someone like Harvey Weinstein then goes and does what he did to many women, the news tells about it once and it's in and out of the media. We don't get the same portrayal, and yet our system is structured on, I mean, look at the orange man in office right now. We're dealing with extremist discrimination, and yet they can stand in front of the public and give their denouncement or their speech as though they have so much credibility in our communities, and yet they're not there. How do you place or impart leadership if you're not in our community? And so, I mean, when it came to Khalid being incarcerated, there was so many things. It was the complete and utter loss of attention to what a child or a teenager I don't care about the descriptive terms, but as a child growing up, you have a developmental focus that should be attended to, and yet being lack of nutrition, lack of education and social environment, being in solitary confinement, it leads people, not just Khalid, but it leads people to not wanting to keep their life or not wanting to progress. So we have to find out how to transform conversation into the next phase of what are we doing to rehabilitate? What are we doing to help the bereavement factor or issue when it comes to the hurts that we're putting on our society?
Yes, and I want to encourage everyone to seek out the Akeem Browder story. That's the name of the film.
Khalid Browder story.
Yes, executive produced by Jay-Z.